Okay, welcome back. So today we are going to discuss about the clusters. So before that we are discuss about your cell systems, but here the new concept is known as the cluster. Cluster is very simple when more than one cells are combined to form a cluster, right? Suppose here in the picture there is a cluster of cell this cell 1, cell 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That means there are 7 cells in a cluster. And here is your 1, 2, 3, 5 is also 7 and also 7. But it's not just this is the strictly it's not followed, but because the cluster capacity is dependent upon the requirement. Sometimes one cluster having 3 cells, 4 cells also, but here the 7 cells in the picture. So when planning cellular network, operators typically allocate different frequency band or channels to adjacent cells so that interference is reduced even when the coverage areas overlap slightly. In this way, cells can be grouped together in what is termed as cluster. That means to avoid the interferences, the mobile operators allocate the different frequencies for the different cell. That means suppose cell 1 use the F1 frequency F1, then cell 2 F2, F3, F4, F5, F6, F7 and so on. So why not to avoid the interferences? Because the same frequency when used in the different cells, because these points are the overlapping points of the two cells. Here cell 1, cell 2, this is the overlapping point. If you are using the different same frequencies in these both cells, what will happen? And this overlapping area, there is will problem. This the interferences will occur because the same frequencies. Na? So that's where the data will build us the persons who is present in this overlapping area. So intentionally the different frequencies allocated by the operators in the different areas, right? So cluster form the question why using the cluster. Now cluster is that where now suppose the cells are formed together and make a cluster. What is the advantage of this? Now advantage is that now the frequency reuse is the advantage of the clustering point. Clear? So another point is that the different frequencies and also the transmission power of a sender has to be limited to avoid the interferences with the next cell using the same frequencies. So to reduce the interferences even further, in place of the omnidirectional antennas, there is a sectorized antennas used, because each cell is divided number sectors, small sectors. Each cell is divided into number of the sectors, right? So here another point is discussed. The fixed assignment of frequencies to cell cluster and cells respectively is not very efficient, right? If you are using the suppose a cluster here, you are using the one same frequency in a cluster. Cluster means is the depend upon the traffic, right? Suppose according to the traffic you are make the cluster. What is the benefit? That you are using the same frequencies in a cluster. Suppose in this cluster 7 cells are using the same frequencies. These 7 cells using the same frequencies, these 7 cells are using the same frequencies. That is the clustering point, right? But here it's not very efficient if traffic load varies. From instance, in the case of a heavy load in one cell and a light load in a high in the neighboring cell, it could make sense to borrow the frequencies. So clustering is not the solution to control the heavy traffic, because in sometimes suppose in this cluster is low traffic, this cluster the high traffic. Whatever the frequencies allocated to this cluster is not sufficient, as the traffic is so high in this cluster. But the frequencies used for this cluster is sufficient because the traffic position is here. So in this case, what will happen? There is a borrow scheme is there. It's known as the borrowing channel allocation. Suppose this what amount of frequency is allocated for this cell is not sufficient for this traffic. That means you can borrow the frequency from the neighbor cluster. That is known as the borrowing frequencies or the borrowing channel allocation, or the BCA is known as the BCA. Right, but in your there is also the fixed your channel allocation scheme is also there, which is used in the GSM mobile phones. But your problem is that before allocating the frequency, though it is a fixed, first we thoroughly analyze the traffic situation or traffic positions of that cells or clusters, because once you allocated, then you cannot change or cannot borrow the frequencies from the neighbors one, right? Now, so because it is a fixed channel allocation, FCA methods, right? FCA used in GSM system, right? It is very simple to use because though it is a fixed system, it is very simple to use. But only problem is that it requires carefully traffic analysis before installation. Right now, before installation, carefully analysis is required. Then another scheme is known as the DCA, Dynamic Channel Allocation scheme, has been implemented in the one in this cluster also, but it is with dynamic assignment of frequencies to cell. The danger of interference with cells using the same frequency exists. The borrowed frequency can be blocked in the surrounding cell. So it is a complex technology. Right now, there is another concept is there known as the DCA, Dynamic Channel Allocation. So this is about the cluster. So what is cluster? A cluster is nothing. It is a combination of more than one cells when formed. It is known as the clustering system. Clear? So next is your frequency reuse. So frequency reuse is a scheme in which allocation and reuse of channels throughout a coverage region is done. Each cellular base station is allocated a group of radio channels or frequency subbands to be used within a small geographic area known as cell. The shape of the cell is hexagonal, and the process of selecting and allocating the frequency subbands for all of the cellular base station within a system is called frequency reuse or frequency planning. Right? The process of selecting and allocating the frequency subbands for all of the cellular base station within a system is called frequency reuse. Discuss about in the last videos. Now, frequency reuse is the important concept in the mobile system or cellular system. Why? Now, available frequency always less compared to the available of the cellular system or mobile phone. So, frequency reuse is a necessary process or is a required process in the cellular system. Clear? So, in which allocation reuse of channels throughout the coverage region is done. Clear? So, that means this red, the entire cells is indicated by some color point of view. Color means this is the red color. See, this frequency is reused here. This frequency is reused here. This frequency is reused here. The same frequency is this frequency. Also, this color also indicates the reuse of the frequencies. Clear? So, this is about the frequency reuse system. Clear? Right. So, this is the essential features of the mobile system. This is the frequency reuse concept. And question that why the shape is the hexagonal. I can even remember that hexagonal shape is used to indicate the cell system. Right? It is the good picture way because hexagonal cover all the areas. That is so. It is a hexagonal. But practically it is not a hexagonal shape. Practically not possible because you can define the particular range of a mobile system or the station. Thank you. Okay, thank you.